video, it's possibly the least HubNut car ever. It's an Aston Martin DB4 worth about £400,000. Has been beautifully restored here by the team at Haynes Engineering, next door to Haynes Motor Museum. And the story of it is just well worth checking out. It's extraordinary how this car has been turned around. It is a car that has been part of this museum collection for decades, but was recently restored by the heritage arm here at the museum. It's a separate business that works on museum cars and makes them look wonderful. Also works on customer cars. A lot of talent that we'll see later on. But the story of this car is quite remarkable. I'm looking forward to telling you how they had to dig into it, replace metalwork, and yet try and keep as much as possible the art of preservation. So the Aston Martin DB4 was really the first commercial success for a company that existed as Bamford and Martin initially since 1913, quite close to the dawn of motoring itself. This is a company that even before the Second World War had gone bankrupt a number of times, continues to have financial issues to this present day, yet somehow keeps lingering on. Such is the passion for the marque. To improve its chances with buyers, the body was styled by Touring of Milan, and absolutely beautiful it is too. It uses a superleggera construction technique. There's loads of little thin tubes supporting this beautiful aluminium skin. Although when the museum started digging into it, they found this car had quite the life. But they sold well over 1,000 of the DB4s. The preceding DB Mark III, they sold 551. So it was a big step up for the company, and a huge part of the success brought to them by DB, David Brown. David Brown made his money with tractors, and very successful he was. But he used that money to save Aston Martin in 1947 and develop the famous DB range of cars. If you're thinking James Bond, you're close, but James Bond actually drove a DB5, although I think in the novels he actually drove the preceding DB Mark III. So he never actually drove a DB4. So John Haynes himself, the man behind the manuals, the man behind this incredible museum, bought this car in the 1980s when really they were worth not very much at all. But it never really got used too much. It was just parked up and was a display car for, well, several decades. But the museum took the decision to restore this car fully and bring it back to absolutely beautiful condition, where they had to. So the engine has been rebuilt, the bodywork obviously has been sorted out and repainted, all done here, and things like the gearbox left alone. It was actually a David Brown gearbox, a 4-speed manual unit, before they switched to a ZF 5-speed for the DB5. And the interior is retained almost in its entirety. There's new carpets. Unfortunately, mites were having fun with the originals, but all the leather is still the original, and I think it's all the better for that. We get to do what members of the public do not. We can carefully step over the barrier, and we are very hallowed indeed as we can open the door on this beautifully restored DB4. Oh yeah, I can just drink in the smell. But look at it, it's been cleaned, but it's still cracked because it's the original leather from 1961. Beautiful wood rim steering wheel, the classy dials, the 4-speed gearbox there, fresh air and ventilation over here. It's just lovely. I think it's all the better for being left entirely as it is. You can't fake this sort of finish. This only happens with the passage of time. Note the handbrake here on the right hand side to keep it out the way. Under the bonnet we have the 6-cylinder engine designed by Tadek Marek, who was a Polish engineer, so I'm probably pronouncing it entirely incorrectly. And yeah, he was responsible for first developing a Lagonda engine, because David Brown also bought Lagonda mostly for its 6-cylinder engine, but then he developed it further. So this one is all alloy, for 3,670 cc, I think, and allegedly 240 brake horsepower. This one is still running in. This car has done 200 miles since restoration. So yeah, we'll be going quite gently on it, but it is a beautiful engine. Tarek later went on to develop the V8 engine as well for Aston Martin. What a legacy. It's just the details in here. Look at that, the original Lucas screen wash bottle. The exhaust manifolds down here, the twin carburetors with their mechanical linkage. Absolutely gorgeous. You can come and see this car and much more at the John Haynes Classic on September the 6th this year. There'll also be loads of cars outside as well as guest speakers, including actually famous people and me. Thankfully, the weather has improved and we've been able to bring the car outside. And we're now with Alex, who is a fabricator here, who's going to tell us what he did to this bodywork, because it didn't look like this when you started the work.
Definitely didn't look like this, no. It was de Bonnet red, but we stripped all the original paint off to reveal the state of the metalwork underneath, which wasn't too good. So we then assessed it, stripped off all the panels that weren't usable, wheeled up some new ones,
just wheeled up some
new ones, just like that, and some body shop techniques where we go over bucks and that sort of thing.
Wow.
Keeping to the museum's ethos, we didn't replace the panel per se. We repaired it because we want to keep as much of the original as possible. It's more about conservation, preservation, that sort of thing.
What was one of the key areas that you had to work on?
The front, well, the whole of the car really, but the front end especially. There's a lot of work around.
Of shapes going on.
That's it. But this front section here is very complex. So there's a lot of annealing and then some sort of tapping about and getting your shape right, because the grille has to fit perfectly. Yeah.
Because it's super Ligero, it's like there's a framework underneath all the panels.
You've got steel tubes, so obviously lightweight aluminium, steel tubes where the panels wrap around it, and then you've got your wired edges to give the strength and rigidity. Any
feeling for how many hours went into this? Because it must have been a huge amount. It was
around about 400 hours. Yeah.
Wow.
That's from strip down to metalwork. And then you've got another 250, 300 in paint. If you factor in with the metalwork your first fit as well. Obviously that's vital in the metal stage. So you put your bumpers on, you put your lights on, basically make car running without actually driving it, because you need to know when the weight's in it and all the function of everything. It needs to be able to function. So there was a few teething problems with that. Screens fitting and all that sort of stuff.
And then you've got to take it all off again.
You have. It's you've got to be patient with it, and you've got to follow the processes, because you wouldn't believe it. Once you put the weight in this, these B posts, they're only joined by this bit of stainless here. So what happens is the roof actually compresses down when you put the weight in the front of the car. So you've got to get your gaps right all across your A-frames and your quarter lights.
Well, yeah, because you don't want to be painting a panel and then finding it catches
and then find out that it doesn't open and close. Defeats the purpose of doing it. So, yeah, all that has to be taken into consideration.
Yeah, I think something people don't appreciate is the amount of time that goes into paint. It's not like you're just chucking paint on it. There's so much work before you even put paint on it.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. You've got to.
And it's important to point out, this isn't just something you do for museum cars. This is the business here for private customers as well.
We actually, most of our work is for clients and customers. This is we were lucky to do this car for the museum. It's nice to be able to do it. So it then goes on display and everyone can see it.
Yeah, good demonstration of the skills on offer.
That as well. Yeah.
But in terms of what you've got in the metal shop at the moment, I just love it, the variety in there. You've got a couple of minis
going on, haven't we?
A Renault Clio, second generation, and an ISO Grifo, as you
400 in the cut or ever kicking about. Some variety in there for sure. For sure.
Well, I suppose it doesn't matter how valuable it is or isn't. It's still going to corrode.
It's valuable to someone. Be their pride and joy. And if they want to keep it on the road, then it's my job to do what they want.
So what are you working on today?
Today is a 500 SL crash repair job. So we're doing the front end pull on that, which has come out nicely. Second-hand bonnet that's being worked over, and then it'll be alignment with the front panel, wings, that sort of thing.
Beautiful.
Then I'll be dotting back onto the Grifo, ISA Grifo. Then it's a Mini and a MGB. I got
that is some lovely variety right there.
Plenty to pick.
Yeah.
Loads going on.
Super. Well, thank you very much for sharing your time today.
That's all right. You're welcome.
So, special moment. We're going to start up the DB4. Neutral check definitely needed. Oh. Yeah, here we are going for a drive in the Aston Martin DB4, which was only returned to the road this year. This is Nick, the workshop manager, by the way.
Start of the year, I think we sort of got it to a point where, you know, we were happy to sign it off as much as we could. It's still on running in miles officially, so any opportunity we get to use it at the moment, just to keep it bedding in is ideal, really. So we go slightly careful with the revs, but what are we on? We've done 228 miles now, so it will be oil change at 250. With a couple of bolts checks in between, just to make sure we're still happy. But overall, not to tempt fate, the running in and any snags has gone really well. Haven't really had any snags. But yeah, absolutely lovely, especially on a day like today. Absolute bonus to be able to get it out.
Gearbox, and dare I say it, him being a tractor man, they were always a little agricultural. I mean, take your time and
I mean, to be fair, I grew up on minis, so that's quite luxury. I mean, as long as you know what you're driving, I don't find them too bad. But yeah, if you jump out of a 25 plate Volvo, whatever it might be, and then jump into this without thinking, then I mean, it's chalk and cheese. But yeah, a bit of mechanical sympathy, and you just take your time. It's absolutely fine.
Gosh,
that is cool.
It's a Renault Estafette invading our road test. Happy days. I love this interior. I know you would probably like it to be absolutely spotless in here, but I love the feeling of age.
Yeah, so because this is a museum car, we didn't go quite as far as we did with like a normal customer's car. Where you can discuss everything and say, well, okay, look, well, if you like it like this, it will cost X, and we recommend this, that, and the other. And normally, if a customer's doing a restoration, it's a case of full restoration. Let's get it back to as good as it can be. Most of it was fully usable, so we didn't really have any reason to sort of say, well, let's go and spend a load of money on this. It was more, let's focus on what really needs doing in terms of actually getting the car back into a drivable exhibit for the museum. So that was mostly full engine rebuild, mechanical full rebuild, and the bodywork massively. Bodywork had sort of 300-400 hours of metal work alone, and then almost 200-300 hours on the paintwork alone.
Wow.
So when you sort of weigh that up, that's where the majority of the work's been. Alex probably touched on it, but left to right from factory, they're slightly wonky.
Oh, in the best Italian tradition, and this is Italian builds at Newport Pagnell as well.
It's
a lot of Pininfarina cars don't match side to side.
It's one of those you can't really win on, because if we made it perfect,
then it wouldn't be what it was.
Yeah, and people would make a comment to say, oh, well, they should be slightly different side to side. That's not how they would have been originally. But then you make them a bit too wonky, and people will look at it and think, do you know what you're doing? Like you've put that side light in the wrong place.
Oh, there's always so many decisions to be made, whether it's a 400 grand Aston Martin or your MGB or your Mini. It's always difficult to know where to draw the line, and it's different for 10 people.
And that's the thing. I mean, literally, in the workshop at the moment, we've got customers Mini, customers MGB, customers ISA Grifo,
and a Renault Clio.
And a Renault Clio.
Yeah, I love it. I love the variety.
So, and each one's a bit different. You speak to the customer, see what do they want to achieve out of it, what do they want to spend, obviously, and what do we suggest? And normally we can meet somewhere in the middle. Like I say, with this one a little bit different, because a lot of the decisions were with the customer. So it was a case of us weighing it up and trying to make the best decision for the museum, really.
What a job, eh? Test driving a freshly restored Aston Martin.
Yeah, one of the perks, definitely. And it's nice that this one belongs to the museum because it takes a little bit of the pressure away and keeps a bit of the enjoyment.
But these were a phenomenal performance machine back in their days. Even though super leggera, super light, and they're not really. It's like 1.5 tons. It's quite a hefty car.
Yeah. Big old girls, no doubt about that.
But in the day, it would apparently do 0 to 100 and back to 0 quicker than anything else. So extraordinary abilities.
I won't be testing that.
No.
If it was mine, maybe.
So there we go, folks. That is the Aston Martin DB4 restored here at Haynes Heritage Engineering. They do amazing jobs on museum cars and also on the cars that come in privately. And that was a magnificent experience. I'm not sure I would want to drive it. I think I would be absolutely petrified. It's definitely one of the most valuable cars that has ever been on the channel. But just to have a ride in it, just to hear the noise, standing roadside and having it drive past, absolutely marvellous. So yeah, do come to the museum, 6th September. I'll be here. This car will be here. That's probably a bigger star than me. And yeah, we'll see you in a future video. Farewell. Look, it's the original badge, complete with the original damage gained over decades.